Robert's in Glasgow. Robert, what would you like to say?
Oh dear. Well, there's no way around it.
Go on.
I voted to leave, and I was an idiot.
Well, no, it's funny when you hear the words reflected back. You make me feel bad. You clearly weren't an idiot.
Well, no, I wasn't.
Good.
I think that what I would say to you is there were reasons. I do feel that some of the European regulations that we've had over the years do degrade our sovereignty, though I will confess now something, as I've thought more deeply about this, which is the fact that probably a lot of the things which I hate about Europe didn't even probably come from Europe.
No.
We tend to think when we hear anything, for instance, about health and safety, and I've always done this, that's European rubbish again.
Yes.
And I used to think this. And then,
it's also probably worth pointing out, Robert, I hope you don't mind, that generally health and safety are quite desirable phenomena.
yes, they are, but there are also ludicrous examples.
There are a few ludicrous examples, but probably involving the compulsory wearing of yellow vests or crash helmets or things like that. But they are rarely. They're very carefully engineered and designed to infuriate and enrage you, aren't they? The stories.
If you run a small business, as my dad used to, you know, the number of regulations that came. I mean, remember all the stuff about bananas and stuff like this that used to go. You know,
that wasn't true. That was never true.
Well, that's fair enough. Well, surely.
No, there was nothing about bananas that was ever going to be actual statute book level legislation.
Well, what about stuff about the fact that they have to throw away vegetables because they?
Have you been into a supermarket in France? Have you been to my Greek friend's dad used to walk around Sainsbury's giggling because of all our tomatoes being identical shapes and sizes.
You know what? You're making my point for me, and thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What I've said, was saying actually is that the fact is I was wrong about this, but I do confess to a very slight resentment about feeling that my life is being run a bit by Angela Merkel. I do. That's an awful thing to say because I'm not Mark Francois.
No, I hear you. Except again, if you look at, and I've done this too late, I've done it retrospectively. If you look at what the British media spent 30, 40 years doing, it's a miracle that the Leave vote wasn't 98%, because theoretically, if someone's whispering in my ear every day, Angela Merkel's trying to run your life, and you're not saying, oh, give me some evidence, give me some evidence, give me some evidence, then you're going to end up where you ended up. Of course you are.
Well, I never quite felt she was trying to run my life.
That's the rhetoric, though, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, yes, it's rhetoric. I understand your point. But I think also, and I'll tell you another thing that's absolutely hideous to contemplate, I never gave the Irish border a thought.
No.
And do you know what? I spoke to someone on another station, on another show, and he cuts from Northern Ireland, and he told me that he spoke to a member of the DUP who never even really thought about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people just didn't think about this. And it's a disaster, Nick. I mean, Nick James, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Easy mistake to make. We're pretty much interchangeable.
Disaster.
Well, of course it's a disaster, but you're much more helpful than I am in answering the next question, because I'm afraid I am going to be a little vain for a moment. It was obvious to me, not only the Irish border issue, but the disastrous nature of what has since unfolded. It's been obvious to me pretty much since day one. Why or when did it become obvious to you? And why do you think so many people who jumped the way you did in 2016 have still got their eyes shut and their fingers in their ears, Robert?
Well, why they've got their eyes shut and their fingers in their ears is because of the phenomenon of dissonance, whereby somehow, as you gradually realise that you've made a mistake, you just dig your heels in more and more deeply. And you see this in any conflict. You see it in marriages. You see it because you know deep down that you're wrong, but you just can't face it. And so you dig in deep. I mean, I spoke to my sister who voted Leave, and she simply said to me, I will not change my mind, whatever you say.
Yes.
Well, if that's the situation, then all debate is finished. In fact, I can barely talk to her now, because that is a pathetic position to take. If you're going to take that position, there is no point in debate, there is no point in discussion. We may as well just accept disaster. With regard to what we were told by the Remainers, some of it was not accurate. We were told by George Osborne that we would be in recession within 3 months, that there would be an emergency budget, and these things were not true, sir. No,
and they were dined out on for weeks immediately, despite the fact, of course, that George Osborne wasn't the Chancellor of the Exchequer at the time when he might have called an emergency budget, and the predictions of recession were mitigated by Mark Carney as Governor of the Bank of England, who then got beaten up for suggesting that things might go badly. But you're right, I mean, crikey, you want to make... The problem is with scales, you put that on one side of the scales, you've got everything else on the other side, and as you've concluded, but your sister hasn't, it's no contest. And that's the question, because I've got a horrible feeling Robert is right, that there is no point debating this. Obviously, that puts me out of a job, or at least removes us from having conversations about the single most important political event that will happen in our lifetimes, please God. It's astonishing, because he's right. I mean, for every Robert, there's probably 100 Robert sisters.